If Floyd Mayweather were to break down a fight between Oleksandr Usyk and Daniel Dubois, his analysis would be multi-dimensional, steeped in technical nuance, strategic insight, and mental warfare. As someone who perfected the art of winning high-stakes fights, Mayweather would likely approach this matchup with a critical eye on how it could shape both fighters' legacies, especially Usyk's, who continues to transition from cruiserweight greatness to heavyweight contention. Mayweather would probably begin by addressing the legacy implications. A dominant Usyk victory, particularly against a dangerous puncher like Dubois, would further solidify the Ukrainian's standing among the greats who successfully moved up from cruiserweight, fighters like Evander Holyfield. Conversely, a loss could raise concerns about Usyk's durability and whether he can consistently handle the physicality and power of true heavyweights. Mayweather might draw comparisons to his own moves between weight classes, explaining how each successful leap, from super featherweight all the way to light middleweight, elevated his status in boxing history. He would frame this fight as a defining chapter in Usyk's pursuit of heavyweight immortality. In terms of technical breakdown, Mayweather would likely start with Usyk's superior ring IQ and tactical versatility. He'd highlight Usyk's masterful footwork, southpaw stance, and ability to control distance with feints and angles. These tools, Mayweather would argue, are especially valuable in neutralizing a power-punching opponent like Dubois. Mayweather might even suggest that Usyk's style resembles a more active, pressure-oriented version of his own, given their shared emphasis on hit-and-don't-get-hit principles. However, Mayweather wouldn't dismiss Dubois. He'd likely caution that in heavyweight boxing, one punch can change everything. He would respect Dubois' youth, size, and knockout power, acknowledging that even the most technical fighter must always account for a heavyweight's explosiveness. That said, he would also examine Dubois' past vulnerabilities, particularly his struggle under pressure against Joe Joyce, and question whether he has matured enough to deal with a fighter of Usyk's caliber. Another angle Mayweather would dive into is corner strategy and in-fight adjustments. Known for his own adaptability and the brilliance of his corner, particularly under his late uncle, Roger Mayweather, he'd stress how vital it is for a team to read the fight round by round. For Usyk, Mayweather would expect the corner to watch Dubois' tendencies carefully and communicate surgical adjustments between rounds. Whether that means increasing lateral movement, changing jab rhythms, or targeting Dubois' body, Mayweather would argue that adaptability is key. For Dubois, Mayweather would emphasize the need for a coherent plan B. If the initial power-punching approach fails, Dubois' corner must offer alternatives. That could include breaking Usyk's rhythm with strategic clinches, varying punch trajectories, or using offbeat timing to disrupt Usyk's rhythm. Mayweather would note that in his own career, the ability to change gears mid-fight often turned close contests into dominant wins. Mayweather would also devote considerable attention to the psychological aspects of the matchup. As a master of mental warfare, he'd observe how Usyk's calm, composed demeanor contrasts with Dubois' more introverted presence. He might explore whether Dubois' team is attempting to undermine Usyk's confidence by questioning his punch resistance, or whether Usyk's unshakable calm is itself a psychological weapon, projecting dominance before a punch is even thrown. He'd likely recall how his own mental games, calculated trash talk, unwavering self-assurance, and body language often gave him a psychological edge even before the opening bell. In that vein, Mayweather might predict that Usyk, through confidence and subtle mind games, could enter the ring with a mental edge over the younger, less experienced Dubois. From a training standpoint, Mayweather would likely compare the structure and sophistication of both camps. Usyk, he'd say, is renowned for a disciplined, methodical regimen rooted in fundamentals, cardio endurance, and precision sparring. He'd probably question whether Dubois' camp has adequately prepared for the uniqueness of Usyk's style. Has Dubois sparred enough with elusive, southpaw movers? Is his team incorporating the kind of drills that would sharpen footwork, improve balance, and condition him to maintain pressure without burning out? Mayweather would point to his own camp's attention to detail, noting that every sparring partner was handpicked to mimic the specific style of an upcoming opponent. He might critique Dubois' preparation if it seems like they're relying solely on power, arguing that without a footwork foundation, Dubois may struggle to trap Usyk or cut off the ring effectively. If Mayweather were to offer direct advice to Usyk, it would center around pacing, patience, and risk management. He'd urge Usyk to avoid early exchanges with Dubois, regardless of confidence. Instead, Mayweather would recommend making Dubois work defensively by varying punch angles, using frequent feints, and keeping him off balance. Just as Mayweather himself broke down larger opponents without taking unnecessary risks, he'd advise Usyk to chip away at Dubois over time, rather than hunt for a knockout. Mayweather's advice to Dubois would focus on discipline and strategic pressure. He'd tell the young Brit to avoid reckless aggression, and instead concentrate on cutting off the ring and controlling real estate. Body punching, Mayweather would argue, is key to slowing Usyk down and reducing his mobility. He'd encourage Dubois to mix up his attack, preventing Usyk from finding a rhythm and timing counterpunches. Mayweather might even reference Marcos Maidana's early success against him, pressuring intelligently without swinging wildly. He'd stress that the goal should be to make Usyk fight on his back foot without compromising defensive responsibility. Rushing in without a plan, Mayweather would warn, plays right into the hands of a master boxer like Usyk. In terms of predicting the outcome, Mayweather would likely offer a nuanced, scenario-based assessment. He'd acknowledge Dubois' one-punch potential, but assert that the more probable outcome is a wide unanimous decision win for Usyk. He might compare it to his own bout against Miguel Cotto, a strong game opponent who still couldn't overcome superior skill, control, and movement. Unless Dubois can improve his footwork significantly and find ways to trap Usyk, Mayweather would predict that Usyk's movement and punch variety would pile up points round after round. Mayweather might also touch on defense, noting how he always balanced offense with a sharp focus on avoiding return fire. He'd suggest that Usyk incorporate more pull counters and defensive pivots, especially during pocket exchanges, to avoid Dubois' power. If Usyk is training properly, Mayweather would expect to see signs of that kind of focus in sparring footage. Tighter guard, sharper exits, and minimal standing exchanges in dangerous positions. Finally, Mayweather would likely explore the mental preparation each fighter is undergoing. He'd argue that Usyk's composure in training camps and past performances under bright lights, like the World Boxing Super Series and his fights with Anthony Joshua, give him a clear mental edge. Mayweather might compare that to his own victory over a then undefeated Canelo Alvarez, where experience and strategic discipline prevailed over youth and aggression. Dubois, while talented, hasn't yet faced someone with Usyk's complete package: elite footwork, stamina, precision, and ring generalship. Mayweather would point out that even a fighter with knockout power needs much more than brute strength to beat someone who's mastered the psychological and tactical layers of the sport. Strategically, Mayweather would recommend that Usyk use the opening rounds as reconnaissance, studying Dubois' habits, reactions, and timing. Establishing the jab early and digging to the body, Mayweather would say, should be top priorities. That body work will slow Dubois down and take steam off his shots, setting the stage for a late-round surge or dominant points win. It mirrors Mayweather's own approach to dismantling bigger men methodically. As for Dubois, Mayweather would commend the Brit's athletic gifts and courage, but caution that unless he matches Usyk's mental and strategic depth, power alone won't be enough. He'd likely conclude that this fight is a proving ground, not just for Usyk's heavyweight legacy, but for Dubois' readiness to join the sport's elite. Floyd Mayweather, widely regarded as one of the most technically astute fighters in boxing history, would have a layered and realistic take on Oleksandr Usyk's upcoming heavyweight title defense against Daniel Dubois. Known for his deep understanding of the sport and ability to dissect matchups with surgical precision, Mayweather would respect Dubois' strengths, but be honest about his limitations at the elite level. Mayweather would begin by acknowledging Dubois' formidable punching power and steadily improving technique. However, he'd be quick to point out that raw power alone rarely beats world-class boxers. Drawing from his own experiences defeating bigger punchers like Diego Corrales and Canelo Alvarez, Mayweather would stress that technical discipline, not brute strength, wins high-level fights. He'd likely caution that unless Dubois can cut off the ring effectively and work behind a consistent jab, he'll be in for a frustrating night. Chasing a mover like Usyk without a plan, Mayweather would warn, leads only to fatigue and missed opportunities. Turning his attention to Usyk's preparation, Mayweather would likely commend the Ukrainian's disciplined training regimen. From analyzing camp footage and public workouts, Mayweather would note that Usyk exhibits the kind of attention to detail and work ethic that he himself was known for. The fact that Usyk has retained his elite footwork and punching accuracy while moving up to heavyweight would be, in Mayweather's view, a testament to both superior conditioning and boxing IQ. A major point of emphasis in Mayweather's analysis would be footwork. Against a strong but somewhat linear opponent like Dubois, Mayweather would stress that Usyk's ability to create angles and pivot out of danger is one of his greatest weapons. He might draw direct comparisons to his own bouts against pressure fighters, particularly the way he used movement and defensive positioning to neutralize Canelo's power. Mayweather would likely highlight Usyk's consistent use of rope drills, pivot exercises, and reaction training as evidence that he's preparing to make Dubois miss all night. Conditioning would also feature prominently in Mayweather's assessment. Having built his own career on outlasting younger opponents with stamina and timing, Mayweather would praise Usyk's ability to maintain a high work rate across 12 rounds, something that becomes even more crucial at heavyweight. He might dissect how Usyk blends long-distance running with interval sprint work to keep both his endurance and fast-twitch explosiveness sharp. In contrast, Mayweather would question whether Dubois, despite being naturally bigger, is prepared to keep pace with a mobile, high-volume boxer deep into the fight. He'd likely remind fans that many of his own victories came from taking over in the championship rounds, when conditioning became the ultimate equalizer. Still, Mayweather wouldn't overlook areas where Usyk could be vulnerable. He might point out that when Usyk opens up with multi-punch combinations, he occasionally leaves himself exposed to counters. Against a puncher like Dubois, even brief lapses could prove dangerous. Mayweather would stress the need for Usyk to prioritize defense, especially early, and avoid trading unnecessarily until he's fully gauged Dubois' timing and power. In closing, Mayweather would place the fight in its broader context. A dominant win for Usyk, he'd argue, sets the stage for massive unification bouts against Tyson Fury or Anthony Joshua, paralleling how key victories in his own career opened doors to lucrative mega-fights. On the flip side, a Dubois upset could dramatically shift the heavyweight hierarchy, injecting new energy into the division. Ultimately, Mayweather would frame the matchup as another classic clash of styles: technician versus puncher, intellect versus power, a narrative as old as boxing itself and one he knows intimately from his own legendary career.